Hey everyone, it's Gloria with Glory Be Resale, and I'm here to do a what sold from December 8th to the 14th on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, and Etsy. And the first thing to sell over on eBay was this antique vintage photo of two horses tethered to an old shack in the prairies. It's a cool old picture. Took a long time to sell it though. But again, it's just paper, so it's all right. And this sold for $30. The cost to me on it was $1. The whoop, next thing to sell was Survive a Nuclear Attack pamphlet from the 1950s, 60s. And this was, I believe, from the Town of Lexington Civil Defense Department. And this sold for $19.57. And I picked this up at an estate sale a while ago. I would say not more than $1 for this. But I had picked up a bunch of political and this kind of thing that were from colleges that they were teaching. So I've been selling a lot of them in the last, you know, 5 years that things that relate to what's going on in the world. Next item to sell was this vintage Harmony Nottingham cotton lace napkins. And these sold for, I had four of these, and the person bought all four. So these sold for $44.76. And the cost to me on them was $6. They were $1.50 each. Next item to sell was this Better Homes and Gardens watercolor floral shower curtain. And this sold for $17. Cost to me was 99¢. Next item to sell was this Tahari Pure Luxe cashmere sweater. And this, I took an offer of $21. I probably sent this offer, $21.60. And the cost to me on it was $5.49. Item to sell was this vintage 80s, 90s roll top bread box. And this I bought at a yard sale for $3, and it sold for $80.75. That was a nice turnaround. Next item to sell was this wooden heart wall shelves cabinet, and those two doors open up and you had little shelves in there. And this is from the 70s. This I bought at, sorry, this I bought at the local uh, antique shop. And this sold, the lady charged me $10 and it sold for $59. Next item to sell was this vintage 80s, 90s, the men's store cardigan. And this sold for $35. Cost to me was $6.49. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I would really appreciate it. Gives me a reason to be making these videos, is show me that people are watching them and enjoying them. And I also would love for you to share any great sales that you might have. And the next item to sell is this vintage 90s elephant wall shelf. And this I took an offer of $27, and the cost to me on it was $5. Next item over to oh, that sold on Poshmark, the elephant shelf. Next thing to sell on Poshmark was this Massimo Dutti women's long sleeve button down shirt, and this I took an offer of $40. Cost to me on it was $9.99. Next item to sell was this vintage 90s Victoria's Secret multicolor paisley satin fleece lined robe, and this sold for $30. This took forever, and I think I just had it too high. Um, I lowered it down, and then I took an offer for $30 just to get rid of it. So, and the cost to me on it was $5.99. Next item to sell, I actually had an offer for a bundle, and I had to have her split the bundle. She offered me $100 for 5 items, and I was okay with that, but we had to split them because it would be too much over the 5 pounds. So I offered she paid for one and I paid for the other shipping. So we had to deduct that from the 100 to 1 shipping, which I believe right now is 6.49. So, this one was a vintage granny core, and we'll say probably an average of $5 for each item. So about $31 for everything. First one was this vintage granny core blouse that sold. Mm, Next was this old quilts sign. So those two went together. The next item was this little pottery bobber cup and tray. The next item was this cold water creek. Sorry, just getting a little confused with them all being together. Um, Next is this cold water creek jacket. And the last thing was this vintage women's gray sweatshirt, pink and gray, floral 80s sweatshirt, I would say. So those 5 items, she offered me $100, and I was happy to move them along and take that money. The next thing to sell and last thing on Poshmark was this vintage dark stained wood scone shelf, and this sold for $36, and the cost to me on it was $6. Next item to sell over on Mercari was this pair of Red Wing boots. I bought these had a yard sale in the fall. I bought 2 pairs, and this was the second pair. The black one sold pretty quickly for 99, and then these sold for 115. I paid $10 a pair, so that was nice. And the other thing to sell on Mercari was this Hagar, vintage Hagar, 100% cotton and flannel lined outdoor field jacket. This sold for $28, and the cost to me on it was $1. Next thing to sell over onto Etsy was this casino tea set, and this was the second one I had, and this sold for $22. Cost to me was $1. Next item to sell was this vintage. Whoop, I lost it. Hmm, sorry about that. What is completed? So the next thing to sell was this 90s pencil bamboo little wall shelf. It just has a small little top on it. And this sold for $59. And the cost to me on it was, I'm sorry, it sold for $53.10, and I bought it for $3.99. Next thing to sell was this pair of 3D duck on a leaf floral trays from Italy. Um, I have had these forever. Might be this green background, I don't know. I had these back in Boston. But anyway, finally I sold these for $55, and the cost to me on them was $7.99 for the pair. Next item to sell was this vintage 60s Silent Night wall plaque, and this sold for $38, and the cost to me on it was $15. This was something I picked up at an antique mall like a year ago. I got it for myself, but I've never used it, so I put it up for sale, and I took $38. The next item to sell was this vintage bronze dog with the fish in his mouth, and this sold for $50.15, and the cost to me on him was $8. Pretty sure I got that down at the Cape Cod when I was down there at my daughter's wedding at an estate sale. Next item to sell was this post-teen autopsy chemical bottle, and this sold for $79. Cost to me on it was $1. Next item to sell was this vintage wood box that hangs on the wall with the farm fresh apples and the apple painting on it. This sold for $17. Cost to me on it was $1. Next item to sell was this vintage I'm gonna say this is probably 80s tea kettle, and this sold for $29. Cost to me on it was $1. Next item to sell was this kitschy guest welcome sign, and this sold for $25. Cost to me on it was $1. Next item to sell was this Hershey's candy jar from Hershey, Pennsylvania, Hershey Chocolate Company. And this sold for $68, and the cost to me on it was $10. Next item to sell was this new old stock tiger blanket, still in package. This sold for $35, and the cost to me on it was $5. Next item was this Polish pottery um, blue covered dish, which I recently bought this at one of the antique malls. And I just thought it was pretty. It was $17, which was a little high, but I just was supporting that local mall. And this sold for $59. So I mean it made decent money and it didn't take long because I want to say it wasn't listed more than a few weeks tops, if it was even that long. So I'm happy with that. Next item to sell was this vintage antique Flemish wood box, and this I bought for $12.50 at the Amish Antique Mall. Here it is, and it sold for $34.20. Cost to me was $12.50. So not a great turnaround, but I just had really never seen a Flemish box, and I just thought it was interesting, and I grabbed it. So, and it sold, so it's fine. Next item to sell was this metal, and this had like a white rubbery coating over it. So this white ornate enamel wall hook, and this sold for $35, and the cost to me on this was $5. Next item to sell was this primitive hay bale uh, hook, and this I bought for my own house, and then I decided that I wasn't going to use it. I was going to hang it on the wall, and I decided not to. So I put it up. I sold it for $22. Cost to me was $8. So I made a little profit, but again, I bought that for personal use. And the next item to sell, which I just lost again, was that candle snuffer. Is this brass candle snuffer? This sold for $15, and the cost to me on it was $4. And that is everything I sold, my friends. If you wouldn't mind giving me a like and subscribe if you haven't done that already, I would really appreciate it. And I will see you next time. I hope your sales are fantastic. And if you're selling, and I will see you next time on the video. Thanks. Bye.